Is your magic meter running low? Well, we've got a cure for you. Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and welcome to the House of Mouse headlines brought to you by laughingplace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. This episode is being released on March 10th, 2021, and here's what's been going on in the world of Disney recently. Planned Disney store closings, a Love Victor Season 2 premiere date, a potential Magic Kingdom television universe, and more. It's all coming your way right after this. If you're looking for that super unique, deep dive, in-the-know sort of gift for the Disney fans in your life, look no further than Who's Its and What's Its. The great team over at Who's Its and What's Its have been creating magically inspired apparel for 10 years, and they have their finger on the pulse of what Disney fans love. And here's the great news. You can save 15% off of your entire order at who'sitswhatsits.com simply by using the discount code DCTC at checkout. Whether you're a fan of their Neverland beanies, mermaid tops, Bright Suns patches, or anything else on the site, you can get it all with 15% off at who'sitswhatsits.com. Your magically inspired apparel discount is just a simple click away in this episode's description. And be sure to use code DCTC at checkout for 15% off your entire order.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
Soon you'll be able to build the 100-acre wood with just 1,265 bricks. This past week, LEGO announced that the Winnie the Pooh themed design submitted to LEGO Ideas by Ben Alder would become a real product. The set allows builders to recreate Pooh's home and includes minifigures for Piglet, Tigger, Rabbit, Eeyore, and of course, Winnie the Pooh. This set will retail for $99.99 in the United States and will be available to LEGO VIPs on March 18th, followed by a public release on April 1st. If you love visiting your local Disney store, then there may be some bad news on the horizon. According to reports, Disney plans to shutter at least 60 Disney store locations in North America by the end of this year. That amounts to 1/5 of the chain's brick-and-mortar stores on the continent. The company is citing a shift in consumer behavior for the move and plans to emphasize the Shop Disney online platform instead. Luckily, they also intend on improving that experience. At this time, Disney has yet to announce exactly which locations it plans to close. On February 28th, the 78th Annual Golden Globe Awards were held, and the Walt Disney Company was honored with several categories. First, Pixar's Soul took home the award for Best Animated Feature, while Jon Batiste, Atticus Ross, and Trent Reznor were awarded for their work on their film's score. Turning to Hulu, the Best Actress Motion Picture Drama trophy went to Andra Day for her role in The United States vs. Billie Holiday. But perhaps the biggest Disney winner of the night was Searchlight Pictures' Nomadland, which not only won Best Picture Drama, but its Helmer Chloe Zhao was also honored in the Best Director Motion Picture category. If you've missed any of these award-winning films, you can screen Soul on Disney+, The United States vs. Billie Holiday on Hulu, and Nomadland in theaters or streaming on Hulu. Speaking of Hulu, the streaming service has announced a premiere date for the second season of Love Victor. All 10 episodes of the season will be available starting Friday, June 11th, which of course means binge weekend. Season 2 of the show will pick up with Victor entering his junior year at Creekwood High as he navigates the challenges that come with being newly out of the closet. Ahead of the June 11th release, you can currently stream Season 1 of Love Victor as well as the original film Love, Simon on Hulu. Not to be left out, Disney Plus also announced official release dates for several upcoming projects. First, the new show Big Shot, starring John Stamos and Yvette Nicole Brown, among others, will kick off on April 16th. Then, the Clone Wars spin-off, Star Wars The Bad Batch, will have a special premiere on May 4th, aka Star Wars Day, may the 4th be with you, with the animated series' second episode airing on May 7th. 1 week later, on May 14th, High School Musical, the musical the series, will kick off its second season. Elsewhere, Marvel's Loki will arrive on June 11th, The Mysterious Benedict Society will debut on June 25th, the long-awaited Monsters at Work featuring returning stars Billy Crystal and John Goodman will premiere on July 2nd, Turner and Hooch, starring Josh Peck, bowing on July 16th, and the new collection of shorts titled Chippendale Park Life beginning on July 23rd. These days, fans are well versed in the Star Wars universe as well as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But what if there was a Magic Kingdom universe? Well, now it seems that such a prospect may be in the cards as Disney is reportedly developing projects for Disney+, including a Society of Explorers and Adventurers, or SEA, television show. If you're unfamiliar, characters associated with SEA, as well as references to members, can currently be found in a number of Disney Parks attractions and locations, including Tower of Terror and Soaring Fantastic Flight at Tokyo Disney Sea, Mystic Manor at Hong Kong Disneyland, Skipper's Canteen at Magic Kingdom Park, Tropical Hideaway at Disneyland Park, and more. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the Society of Explorers and Adventurers is being created by Ron Moore, who recently signed a development deal with Disney. However, we'll need to wait and see if this project and potential television universe manage to get off the ground. Heading to Walt Disney World, the transformation of Epcot's entrance plaza continued last week as several additions debuted just in time for the 2021 Taste of Epcot International Flower and Garden Festival to kick off. As guests roam the area, they may first notice a new music loop. Additionally, a dozen flagpoles now fly 6 designs referencing Epcot's original icons. Finally, as night falls, guests may notice new lighting along the entryway structures and fountain that change color over time. All of this is just the start for the park, with several other projects now underway. Over at Disney Springs, the Celebrate Her Story program is highlighting the stories of amazing women. This initiative focuses on 3 main areas: celebrate women in artistry, delight your taste buds, and discover female-owned businesses. As part of the celebration of women and artistry, the Art of Disney and Wonderground Gallery will focus on female filmmakers, artists, and directors who work or have worked at the Walt Disney Animation Studios, while the Art of Disney and Marketplace Co-op will also host pop-up showcases for visiting artists all month long. In the culinary category, Chef Yolanda Lazo-Colin from Amaret's Patisserie and Chef Amanda Lauder from the Ganachery have created their own unique offerings inspired by Women's History Month and what it means to them, while other specialty items will be available at Marketplace Snacks, CityWorks Eatery and Poorhouse, and Sprinkles. Lastly, if you're looking for women-owned brands at Disney Springs, then you'll want to check out Erin McKenna's Bakery NYC, Rustic Cuff, Sugar Boo & Company, and Vivoli Il Gelato. As Walt Disney Animation's Raya and the Last Dragon arrived in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access last week, the Disneyland Resort unveiled a new mural celebrating the film. Imagineer Zhao Qing Chen has painted a mural featuring characters from the movie that can now be found at Downtown Disney. Born in Malaysia, Zhao Qing Chen's approach to the piece was to showcase the unique qualities of each character and how they came together to celebrate their differences. Fans of the piece can also stop by Wonderground Gallery, yes, it's back in Downtown Disney, where deluxe prints and art-on-demand options are available for purchase. Also at the Disneyland Resort, the villas at Disney's Grand Californian Hotel and Spa are once again getting ready to reopen. Currently, the property is expected to welcome back DVC members and their guests on May 2nd. Previously, the property was expected to reopen on December 6th of last year, but regional stay-at-home guidelines issued just days before that date postponed the return. For more information and to make reservations, DVC members can visit the Vacation Club website. In celebration of Disney California Adventure's recent 20th anniversary, D23 and Walt Disney Imagineering are teaming up for the first entry in their Magical Milestones series. The Dca Event will be hosted by Academy Award-nominated director Leslie Iwerks, with Bob Weiss, Stephen Davison, Tom Fitzgerald, Lynn Itamura, and many others being featured. Not only will this event rewind the clock to look at the early days of the park's development and debut, but will also look towards the future, including Avengers Campus. This panel will premiere on Wednesday, March 10th at 4 p.m. Pacific, and will remain available until Friday, March 26th at 11:45 p.m. Pacific. D23 Gold members can request one complimentary access code per membership, while D23 General members can purchase one access code per membership for $10 plus a $1.50 processing fee. Ahead of this year's virtual Chalk Walk on Saturday, May 22nd, the Children's Hospital of Orange County will be hosting a Taste of Virtual Chalk Walk cooking webinar. Culinary expert and Eat Like Walt author Marcy Carricker-Smothers will lead a live 75-minute webinar on Saturday, March 20th at 10 a.m. During the demo, Marcy will introduce fun Disney-inspired snacks that you can make with the whole family. For more information on this webinar, as well as the virtual Chalk Walk presented by the Disneyland Resort, be sure to visit chalkwalk.org. That's CHOC walk.org. And now it's time to welcome back Kyle Burbank from laughingplace.com to discuss a couple bits of news. Hello, Kyle.
Hey, Jeff.
I have to talk to you today about a touch of Disney at Disney California Adventure. Now, I know that this news, the announcement of it came out several weeks back, but recently tickets went on sale for it. And just as a reminder to folks, this is essentially a food festival in Disney California Adventure with 0 rides open for obvious reasons. And the way that they describe it on their site is, quote, some of the world famous food and beverages from around the resort, plus a chance to see Disney characters, shop for the latest Disney merchandise, and pose at unique photo locations. Now, right from there, the world famous food and beverages, I have so many issues. I don't even know where to start, but I'll just start with it. So Knott's Berry Farm, which is, for those who don't know, is 10 minutes away from Disneyland. They've been doing these food events since, I think, last June, something like that. It was pretty soon after the shutdown.
It was pretty early, yeah.
Yeah, they kicked it right into high gear. And one of the cool things about it was, it's a food festival, but they really created unique dishes that weren't normally in the park. So this DCA event automatically for me is like, oh, so it's just the stuff that's already normally in the park. Like that's a negative in my book. I don't know. How do you feel?
It's a little different in that you're not normally going to go get a churro and a Monte Cristo. And if you eat a Monte Cristo, you're full for the rest of the day. So it's kind of nice to be able to buy just like 1/4 of a Monte Cristo and then get a Dole Whip with it. Like there's some novelty there, I think.
so you can get smaller portions of the food.
Well, I mean, the price also scales with that, I would assume.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the price in a second. But so included in this is parking, which, by the way, it's free everywhere else anyway. The only people charging right now is the $10 downtown Disney parking fee. Knott's and Universal have been free since, the current situation. And then photo ops with Disney Photo Pass included, which is great, but once again, you're not really getting anything. It's a digital download. So I just want to say, first off, congratulations to the Walt Disney Company for convincing guests that walking around a shutdown theme park with a few added perks is worth $75.
Well, $50 because you also get the $25 gift card.
It doesn't matter because at the other food events, you get the way that the other food events have worked at the other parks is you pay for the admission, which is considerably less than $75, and you get 5 food choices, which I guarantee is a lot more than you're going to get at DCA, because with $25, let's face it, these things are going to price probably around $7 or $8 so that you can get like a couple or a few things. And then it's definitely going to encourage you to spend more money and buy more food. So yes, you're getting a $25 food voucher, but like that's what you're paying for, right? Like that's the event. It's food.
Yeah, it's definitely overpriced. I'm 100% with you there. It's not that much higher than I would have expected. I did kind of think it was going to be more of where they just gave you like tabs, kind of like they've done for the Sip and Savor. And so then you could maybe, depending on what you chose, make up a little bit of ground there. So I was a little surprised that it's just a flat $25 gift card that I thought was kind of defeated the purpose, like you're saying. I don't know, though. I think the $25 definitely counts. Like, I was still saying it's a $50 thing. And then when you take in the $10 in parking, then it takes down to $40.
Yeah, but that should be free. The parking should be free. Like, I don't know. My brain's having a hard time I'm not surprised at all. Tickets went on sale on March 4th, and it broke the internet. People were like in 8-hour queues, it seemed like, online. And, what did they add? 2 weekends? Immediately, they added weekends.
So their plan was not that they added weekends to the event. They always were planning to do those events, but they were only planning to release however many weeks in advance and then release tickets on a rolling basis. But they did they opened 2 more days for tickets on day 1.
Okay. So once again, sincerely, congratulations to the Walt Disney Company. I think it's amazing. I think it's great. It's putting people back to work. I think it shows how willing people are to pay for Disney content. But the thing that's really getting me is I don't want to hear from anybody who purchased a $75 ticket to this event. I don't want to hear them complain about the cost of tickets to get into Disneyland or any special events in the future, because if I were working at Disney, looking at spreadsheets, and I got to tell you, I would 1000% look at this and say, hey, people are willing to pay $75 for a super limited event. Jack up the price to $200 to visit Disneyland and $250 for Oogie Boogie Bash and other special events, because the reality is people are willing to pay for it. And I get it. We're coming out of a pandemic. People are craving it. And you have to consider that, absolutely. And I'm sure that they are. But there's also still a ton of people who don't feel comfortable in parks. There are a ton of people who are unemployed still and have been for many months. So I feel like that balances out the amount of people that are just craving it and willing to pay anything. So I truly feel that the Walt Disney Company should look at this and say, jack up the price of every ticketed event that we have. And if they do, I don't blame them. And I don't want to hear anybody complain who bought a ticket to this overpriced event.
Well, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens if they do end up adding additional or doing additional dates after this initial run, because I have to imagine that conservatively 80% of tickets sold were bloggers and vloggers.
80%?
I'm being silly. But
I mean, there's
it's
not
a huge
that many.
Contingency.
Do you think, like, what percentage do you actually think?
Just because there's success, so there's people that names but then there's other people that want to start a blog or want to get Insta famous. And so I feel like a lot of them are like, oh, well, this is how you do it. On day 1, this is going to have hype. I could be wrong, but I feel like a huge contingency of people that buy tickets want to do so, not necessarily because they really want to do the event, but because they want to share pictures, even just on a personal level.
I'm flabbergasted by this. I really am. I'm not surprised. I'm just kind of, I guess being blown away is surprise, right? I just can't. I can't even wrap my head around it. Now, listen, I love Disneyland. I miss Disneyland. Of course I do. But $75 for this is just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
We also don't know how many tickets they sold for each day.
Yeah,
that could also be a factor in how they had to price it, because obviously, they are bringing cast members back for it, and it's not just to staff those booths, but you're going to have people. If you're going to open the entire park, you're going to have cast members around the entire park. So I do wonder how much of that cost is partially on just, making up for the staff and making it worth doing if they had to sell a very limited number of tickets, which I'm not saying they did. They had to limit it to some capacity, obviously.
Sure.
But
yeah, it is interesting. Just these food events in general have really taken off. And listen, food festivals in parks have been a thing for a long time. Disney does it great, Epcot especially. But the thing that's so interesting is when this first started, Knott's was the first one I saw. Do you know of any others anywhere else in the country?
Knott's was way ahead of the game, and everyone's like, why isn't Disney doing something like this? This is so smart, getting around the rules.
In my opinion, this is why Disney wasn't. Because, I mean, it's no secret that there has been a big fight between Disney and the governor of California over the ability to open the parks, which actually we'll talk about in a minute. But I think that Disney, not that they couldn't do it, they certainly could have thrown a food event. I think it was more of, no, we're not going to, it was an unwillingness to compromise is what it felt like to me. Because let's face it, they could have done this as soon as Knott's did. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think you're right. I think they were hoping for something more. And at the same time, if they would have done it, it might have got the state of California to adjust the rules so that it couldn't be done. So in that aspect, maybe Knott's is lucky that Disney didn't try to do it earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, as evidenced by the next story we'll talk about, I think there's definitely something at play for there.
Yeah. Now, we keep talking about Knott's, but it's an important part of this story, but their food events started at $25. And each one that they've had, and they've had quite a few since they started, it's gone up $5. It's now up to $45, which honestly is kind of getting to a point where I'm like, I don't know if it's necessarily worth $45 to me. And then I think it's funny because Universal's doing one and they're $44. So they're the cheaper one by $1. And then Disney's is way up to $75 and you're getting much less food from what I can tell based on the information we have. It's crazy to me. I don't know. Do you think this is going to affect like an Oogie Boogie Bash ticket or just a ticket to Disneyland?
I mean, especially, I think there's a lot of things to figure out in a post-annual passport world. I know there's going to be a membership thing. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. But I think there's going to be a lot of experiments on the table to figure out what the proper way of pricing these things is. Because, as they've talked about, demand for these products is so high and they have a limited supply. So it makes sense that they would raise the ticket prices, but every time they do, everyone complains, but then the things sell out. So they still haven't figured out that model yet, and they're going to keep trying, and it's, people are going to be upset, but then people are still going to keep paying. So until that stops happening.
Yeah, it's pretty rare that I see an event that doesn't really do well. I do remember the last event I went to at Disneyland was 80s Night. And if I'm remembering correctly, that did not sell out. And that was about a $120 ticket. Just the year before that, 90s Night was either 100 or 110. And that one did sell out from what I remember. So it is interesting. Obviously, theme and what's being offered is a big component as far as sell out or not. But honestly, if it were me, I would jack up the price for locals and charge half of that amount for people paying to stay at a Disneyland Resort hotel to get into the parks. And then I would look at the prices that they were planning for their membership program and double it, because clearly people are willing to pay. It's obviously not something I want to happen, but that's what I would do if I was the one making those decisions.
Well, the parks also have a habit of going really hard on something at the beginning when they see that it's working, and then it starts to lose steam. Like, I'm thinking more of products in this case, like Finalmation, or now with the new emos. They pump them out at the beginning because people are going for it, and then they just kind of slowly die out. So I wonder if Disneyland After Dark, if that series would still be as successful as it was at the beginning at this point, had it been able to continue in its normal capacity.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, everybody wants to be the first to do everything when it comes to Disney. So yeah, that first Disneyland After Dark, it's so interesting to me though, but I don't know. I do think that this is dangerous, for lack of a better term, as far as what they can charge in the future. And yeah, I don't blame them. And once again, a sincere congratulations to the Walt Disney Company for creating and maintaining a product that people are willing to pay insane sums for. Congratulations. Let's move on to another bit of major news, because new major theme park reopening guidelines for a potential April 1st, 2021 opening in California has been announced. Now, this doesn't mean that Disneyland's opening on April 1st, but basically, the blueprint refresh from the Newsom administration will allow the parks to reopen as early as April 1st, once the counties they're located in reach the red/substantial Tier 2 risk status. Attendance at the theme parks will be limited only to California residents, which is really interesting. I don't think Walt Disney World ever did that, did they? It was never just a... Yeah, no, so that's interesting. Starting April 1st, parks can open at 15% capacity, 15% capacity. There will be both a building capacity limitation and a time limitation. A ride that takes place indoors or goes into a building for a brief period of time may open if it meets both of these requirements. Now, let's face it, that's almost everything in a Disney park. So that's a big deal. Orange County, where Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm are located, and Los Angeles County, where Universal Studios Hollywood and Six Flags Magic Mountain are located, are expected to enter the red tier next week and theoretically could reopen on April 1st. I mean, this is good news, but at the same time, to me, it felt like a get off my back announcement. because I don't think 15% makes sense to open.
No. Also, we don't know what they're going to have to do to prove that they're only letting in California residents, like what level of proof is going to be substantial enough. So obviously you're going to have people, as they're buying tickets, have a system in place that you can check their, like, sure, you could just enter their enter their address, but is that technically going to be enough for the government, or do they want scans of IDs? Like, we don't know, but Disney's going to have to build some sort of a system to do that scheduling. And then, as we were saying, this was announced the day after the tickets went on sale for the Touch of Disney. So it was almost like, not just get off my back, but you guys are skirting the rules anyway. So fine, if you want to open so bad, now it's in your court. You can open 15%. And yeah, I don't know if opening at 15% capacity is worth it. I mean, especially if you're figuring that a lot of attractions can't open if they're indoors for too long or whatever. So then that's also going to reduce your capacity, because the park might only be open to, I mean, how many completely outdoor rides can you name?
Not even completely outdoor lines, but if you can only be inside a building for X amount of minutes, I mean, how many queues are indoors? I mean, Indiana Jones Adventure, that's a long queue. I mean, the walk, even if the queue was empty, the walk from the outdoor space to the loading is like a 10-minute walk.
Right. And that ride's entirely inside. So I'm thinking, you know, you'd have some questionable ones, like maybe Matterhorn's okay because it's outside for X percentage of the ride. And, you know, maybe they probably wouldn't open Splash Mountain anyway, but
Big Thunder Mountain's safe.
Yeah.
I would say. It's interesting. You know, this is good news for, I'd say, like a Six Flags. I think that they could potentially benefit from this. Disneyland, I don't know. I feel like it's going to have to get considerably better.
It's more of a headache for Disney than anything. I mean, especially because now they have to figure out what to do with those tickets. Well, first of all, like we were saying, we don't know what capacity they sold the Touch of Disney tickets at.
Yeah.
So even if they decided, okay, well, why don't we open, you know, California Adventure after however many of these events on April 1st, then we'll just convert anyone who has a Touch of Disney. Hey, congratulations, you can visit California Adventure as an open park now. We're not going to do any of the special stuff, but you got a $75 day ticket to California Adventure and you're good. But we also, I doubt most of them are probably California residents, but maybe not all of them are. So how do you handle that? You talk about how much of a awful the ticket system was. So now you're talking about having to not only probably have a smaller number of tickets that you can sell each day, which is going to people are going to, you know, bombard that site. And you're going to have to add the extra step of figuring out who's a California resident that they're going to have to build in. And I just don't think Disney's IT is built for that, because I've had a lot of experience with Disney websites and they are more or less the worst.
The thing that's interesting is in the past when, like, if they have a deal for SoCal residents or something, the way that they've always done it in the past is simply it's based on the zip code on your credit card that you're using to pay. And that has been enough for Disney in order to say, okay, you get the discount. And they'll often say, you know, your license will be checked at the gate or something. It never, ever, ever is. So it'd be interesting to see if, like, that whole California residents only thing is, you know, if that's enough or if they need more. It's also interesting that, like, California residents goes way north of Disneyland. It's like somebody in Arizona could be closer to Disneyland than somebody in San Francisco. I don't know if that's actually 100% accurate.
That's accurate.
So, yeah, so that's interesting as well. I don't know. I think this really felt like a stop bothering me about when we can open theme parks by the governor. And I mean, 25% feels low. So to say 15%, that feels like minuscule.
Well, that's the other difference between Disneyland and Magic Kingdom is Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom opened at 25%. And that was 25% not of Disney's capacity, but of like an engineering fire marshal capacity. But they also were able to open all of their rides without restrictions. So at Disneyland, not only are you going to have, obviously it's a much smaller park, so that's a lower number. But then if you're calculating the fire marshal capacity and you're taking off a lot of those rides, which I think they're still figuring out exactly what that means as far as, is it a percentage of the time that you're outside? Is it an amount of time? They haven't stated what those are, so we don't really know which rides they'd be able to open. But you can bet that's going to take away a lot of capacity as well.
I mean, there's a good chance Rise of the Resistance wouldn't be able to open because that's a long ride.
Golden Zephyr is going to have its day until the wind blows for 3 seconds, and then it's over
Golden
again.
Zephyr and the Pixar Pal around and Incredicoaster. Basically, Pixar Pier is like the crown jewel. Honestly, I would not be surprised if they open, aside from the food event, Disney California Adventure weeks, if not months, before Disneyland. And they're like, okay, we can make this work in DCA for a number of reasons. Number one, I mean, just pathways are so much bigger in Disney California Adventure. The social distancing will be a lot easier in DCA. And then, they have a lot more options as far as, open air attractions are concerned. So I don't know. I feel like that would be discouraging, disappointing maybe for a lot of people, but I think that might be a reality. Or, had an idea. This is what you do.
I think we're on the same page.
Open DCA as a theme park and move a food event over to Disneyland.
Yep, I'm giving you the thumbs up. The listeners can't see it.
And you know what they could do if they moved that food event to Disneyland? They could charge $100 for it because so many more people would want to do it in Disneyland. But I think it would have to be fewer people. I think I don't know.
But the thing is, whatever they do, they only have 3 weeks notice. So the good news is that the park, because they've been anticipating wanting to open, remember when they were supposed to open in July? So they have all the social distance markers and stuff throughout the park. So that's the good thing. And they're already calling some staff back for Touch of Disney. But it sounds like it's going to be quite a lot of things to figure out. And also, we should mention, you mentioned it goes up to 25% at the orange tier and 35% at the yellow tier, but it's still only California residents. Currently, there is not a outside of California timeline.
That's really interesting as well. I mean, oh gosh, that could be like another year. I mean, I hope not. Everybody get a vaccine as soon as you can.
Well, I mean, President Biden says everyone who wants a vaccine should be able to have one. His current estimate is mid-May.
Every adult.
Well, yeah, but
a lot of kids go to Disneyland.
But you figure that adults make up the bulk of, like, for herd immunity and stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Listen, this is all good news heading in the right direction that we've all been waiting for a very long time. I don't think that that current 15% thing, I don't think it's doable for Disneyland. If it is, it's going to be opening more to make for good face, for lack of a better term. I think it's a good morale booster. It's good marketing. It's, hey, we're still here sort of thing. I mean, it's unbelievable to think we are very, very, very close to 1 year with Disneyland closed.
It will surpass a year because it can't open until April 1st, and it was closed on
March
Pi Day
14th, I think, right? Yeah, the Pi Day 3.14. So yeah, it's unbelievable. It's really, really crazy. I am really happy to hear that people are going back to work. I'm really happy to hear that things are getting slightly more normal. We're far from out of the woods, but it's all good and going in the right direction. So I think that's fantastic.
Well, it'll also be interesting to see. I mean, the reason I could see Disney wanting to open, even if it's at potentially a loss, is because they want to support the city of Anaheim and all of those things along Harbor Boulevard that are closed. But then again, at 15% capacity and only California residents, who's to say how many people are actually going to be taking advantage of hotels along Harbor Boulevard and stuff? So it's
yeah. I think I think this summer hopefully we'll see a lot of numbers drop because of vaccines, and that will be great news. And hopefully we'll have a normal Halloween season, perhaps wearing masks, which is ironic considering most of these events don't allow masks normally. but yeah, I think it's good. And I'm just happy for everybody involved with all this stuff. And even, just to go off Disney for a second, the fact that Epic Universe announced that they're going back to construction over at Universal Florida, that's fantastic news for so many people that, stopped working because of it.
I really thought that they were just going to build Super Nintendo Land over Seuss Landing.
No, not that fast. Come on. Anyway, Kyle, thank you so much for coming on with this news. I'll see you again in a couple weeks.
See you then.
You've heard the news, and now I want to hear what you have to say about it. Call 818-860-2569, leaving a voicemail, sharing your thoughts, and you may just hear yourself on a future episode of Disney Coast to Coast. Once again, that's 818-860-2569, or simply look in this episode's description for the phone number, along with a link for some free gifts from me to you. If you haven't listened to last week's episode yet, be sure to check it out, as I had a discussion with an Imagineer all about the use of intellectual properties in the Disney parks, a hot-button topic these days. The easiest way to make sure you don't miss any of the magic is by subscribing to Disney Coast to Coast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Wherever you search, don't forget, it's Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast. As always, thank you so much to those of you who support the show on Patreon. You make all of this possible. If you enjoy these honest conversations about Disney and have the means, please consider becoming a member of the DCTC community over at patreon.com/DisneyCTC for far less than the cost of a Dole Whip. Plus, you'll gain rewards. You can find that link in this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the Podcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at depodcastnetwork.com. That's DEPodcastNetwork.com.